we are again talking books. And boy, have I been reading a big book. I've been reading Inheritance by Christopher Paolini. It's actually the 4th book in the Inheritance cycle, and we started off with Eragon. I mean, amazing backstory to this book. Christopher Paolini started writing when he was 15. He actually self-published, he and his family self-published, and Carl Hyson's stepson managed to get his hand on a copy of the self-published book, gave it to Carl, and he took it to his publisher, Knopf, and the rest is history. Over 1 million copies sold in this country, and apparently 25 million copies sold worldwide of the entire series, not just of this one. It's quest fantasy. It's about a young farm boy called Eragon, and he becomes a dragon rider. And it is really ultimately the battle between good and evil. And in Inheritance, we actually see the final battle. Many young boys and young girls are reading Christopher Paolini. It really wasn't for me, but I can see the appeal. I mean, you know, you can see the influences, Tolkien, Pullman, I mean, you know, even Garth Nix. It's great story, great plot, and it really is a book that you can't put down.
I've basically done nothing for a week but read this. I mean, it's 860 pages,
and I'm not the,
you know, 100 pages a day. It's still, you know, it's 9 days reading. It's massive.
It's easy reading, though.
Yes, but people who are going to pick this up have got a lot of time on their hands.
Kids, young men, young women.
Yeah. It's also very derivative, as you say. There's a dash of Tolkien. There's a whole lot of Star Wars in here. There's, you know, there's the orphan. There's the ultimate quest to find out who he is. I came to this with fairly low expectations. I'd seen the film of Eragon, which is shocking. But for the first couple of 100 pages, I was all at sea, wondering, you know, where it was going. But against my will, almost, I was drawn into it, and the pages started to fly by.
But you see, the pages didn't fly by for me. I found a difficulty in the style of the writing.
Michael, you're perhaps a touch old for this.
He's probably closer to the age group than you are.
He is. And I have read my fair share of fantasy over the time. But I found that stylistically, you know, there is just it was overly embellished. And I'm talking about just kind of the simple curlicues of detail that are almost irrelevant, that feel at times repetitious. And coupled into that, there was a little bit of the language, which was kind of a little ye-olde-worldy.
But, you know, what an achievement for someone who's under 25 to have written 2,500 pages.
It's fantastic. I think the imagination's fantastic. I think the talent of the man is fantastic. I just think that there are...
So it's not going to win the National Book Award?
No, I just think that, you know, if you're
He doesn't need to.
Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, and Blubber and things like that by Judy Blume. She kind of started the whole young adult literature thing.
Catcher in the Rye, or something like Lord of the Flies. You know, there's certain things that always embodies that transitional journey from childhood, adolescence to adulthood.
So, Lockie, what have you been reading?
Well, I've been reading The Hunger Games, which has been out for a few years now, but the film's been out in recent months. Massive, massive success. More successful than Twilight. This is one of the most popular young adult books of all time now. It's set in a dystopian near future in a country called Panem, where Katniss Everdeen becomes one of 24 participants in an annual event called the Hunger Games, in which children from ages 12 to 18 are pitted against each other in a televised fight to the death. My 12-year-old cousin Patrick was reading this at the same time as me, and he said, this is the best book in the world ever right now.
I've heard that quite a bit about the Hunger Games.
It's really something. I mean, I'm a child of the 80s, and I grew up with books and movies like The Running Man, or looking further back to things like William Golding, Lord of the Flies. And this, again, it wears its influences.
For me, it's young adult, but it's also what I would call a genre fiction, because what it at essence for me it is classic hero's journey as characterised by Joseph Campbell, as used by people like in George Lucas in Star Wars, etc. and so on. We have got young boy on the verge of adolescence, lost his father, goes into training, goes into a battle where he has to pitch his wits against a world that is made by somebody else under their rules and has to confront that, achieve that, face monsters, face demons, and come out the other side.
Absolutely.
The only difference with this one is instead of it being a young boy, it's a young girl. And it's an action. It's action.
It's full of action. It is. That's what I was going to say. It's an action thriller. That's why I think that adults are enjoying it just as much as children.
There's been a lot of comments about the violence in this, and I thought it might be interesting to touch on that.
Big Brother meets Gladiator.
Sure.
I mean, that's kind of what we got here.
in the end, Katniss, I think she kills 2 or 3 people, but it's so.
But not malevolent.
No, exactly, and she thinks very deeply about what it actually means to be in this position. On the other hand, you're reading Inheritance, and Eragon and his cousin, they might kill half a dozen people on a page with hammers through the head, and it's kind of thousands of people.
But I think that's kind of acceptable. I think children killing children, maybe that's a bit more challenging, but she does it well. I mean, it overcomes that
she
completely.
Does within a genre like a thriller, like a police procedural, like a romance. She does do it very, very well.
Yeah. Well, I'll be giving a copy to my little boy when he turns 12.
Yeah,
and will you be reading the second instalment?
Absolutely. I want to know what happens.
And he'll enjoy it.
The real classic of the last 15 years, I guess, would be Philip Pullman's trilogy.
Philip Pullman's his Dark Materials.
His Dark Materials trilogy. They are books I find that kind of really transcend the young adult genre and have become classics in their own right.
This is a book that not only teenagers read, but I read this sort of book as well. It's The Outsiders. S.E. Hinton. It talks directly about the teenage experience by a teenager. She was 16 when she wrote this, and it was based out of an experience that she had, which was a friend of hers, was 14, got bashed up. And so in a way, this book is kind of releasing the energy out of that. And in doing so, it has been said it's changed the face of books for teenagers, books for children. For the first time, we have got gritty realism, contemporary writing about the contemporary world. It's the story of Ponyboy Curtis, a 14-year-old who's one of the greasers.
My kind of book.
Your kind of book. That's what I'm looking to. It's your kind of book. So you've got these two, essentially, gangs, the well-to-do rich socials and the outcasts, the outsiders.
I think it's a masterpiece, Michael.
It is.
I mean, I
Absolutely.
think that this book is as relevant now as it was, 1960?
1967, 45 years ago. I mean, and that's because it's about the teenage experience.
I think you could tell the urgency of her, having experienced that incident and going home and starting to write immediately. I mean, it is really a tale that resonates for years and years and years.
And the themes of the book, what is it like?
Everything is life and death.
Life and death, belonging,
those
identity,
issues. Absolutely.
and just your whole world, when it gets turned upside down, because what happens is that Johnny, one of Ponyboy's friends, kills somebody, and suddenly it is life and death.
But even her writing it at that age, she had a real understanding of that.
Well, it will be interesting to see whether these two stand the test of time.
And
in
become
45
Puffin
years.
classics.
The Harry Potter books cross over because so many of us remember reading boarding school novels as kids.
The Secret Garden and the Little Princess, which I absolutely loved when I was younger. Modern, obviously, Harry Potter.
Does Paul Jennings count? Yeah, Paul Jennings. I love him.
Well, we're almost out of time, but something that will appeal to young adult audiences is Bob Catter's Incredible Race of People. His
Big title.
Big man, big hat.
Love him or loathe him, you cannot ignore him. And one other thing I've been really looking forward to is Kim Stanley Robinson's book, 2312. Now, Robinson wrote Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars, the massive sci-fi trilogy, and this book we've been waiting for years. So can't wait to get my teeth into it.
Yeah, be good.
Until we meet again.
See you then.
Looking forward to it.